Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another segment of Help Files. And in today's segment, we're going to cover how to properly set up the racing preferences per horse. You're able to create a sort feature that'll help you sort or trim down the races that show up on your horse's page for the horse to enter. I will say that I find that many people set this up incorrectly. Many people kind of shortchange their horse. They don't give a lot of options for the horse, and they kind of just they have all these distances, but they think that the horse can only run 6 furlongs and it can only run in a certain type of claiming race. They're the check boxes that they check off, and then the next thing you know, the horse doesn't really run as much as it would like, and it doesn't see the whole schedule. So just remember, as you're doing this, when you go through this sorting feature, you're basically trimming down the races that show up for that individual horse because you're in that horse's horse page. So let's go through it real quick. So obviously we're on the home screen here. We're going to go into the main stable. We're going to check. We're going to just pick a horse to work with. So we'll use this here. This horse named Check 20. Okay. And you'll see this is the horse's page. We can go over the information on the page at a later time. Today is just about the racing preferences. You continue to scroll down. You're going to get to an area that shows up here as far as qualified races, because everything below this area is going to show you the upcoming races that this horse qualifies for. Okay, this is going to give you a short look at 5 of them. You can hit view all and it'll show you all the races upcoming. Now this box here is the sorting area or the preference area, and I would be very careful on how you use this area, because you can definitely limit yourself and limit the horse as far as its options go. Now, on the left here is track. You can you don't have to click any. Obviously, if nothing's checked by default, it's going to show all tracks. Now I can click any and save it, and it'll still show all tracks. But if I only want to show tracks at Belmont, I'll click Belmont. I'll apply and save. And if I scroll back down now, the only races that I will see on the schedule here, track, are Belmont races. Again, I don't know necessarily why you would want to do that, but some people prefer to only race at a certain track, so that's fine. But you remember, as soon as you check this off, it's only going to show you Belmont. So we're going to go ahead and uncheck that. Okay. Now that you know how that works, we're going to scroll back down, and then we're going to go to the distance. Now, this is often used, but what I find is that people kind of they basically shortchange themselves on the options. They may have a sprinter. They may have a horse that they think is a sprinter, can only run 6 furlongs. So they'll go ahead and they'll apply the search, and now they've limited themselves to only 6 furlong races. Now, while there may be many different types of 6 furlong races, I can tell you that generally speaking, a horse that you think can only run 6 furlongs can probably also run in some 5 furlong races, 7 furlong races, and sometimes a mile. So you want to be careful. So I would never ever use this area here and only click off one distance. I think 3. I would recommend basically leaving as many options as possible. That way you get to see every race on the schedule, and you might find a race that maybe doesn't necessarily fit the horse as far as distance, but maybe you think it's a weaker class, or the condition fits the horse better, so you would want to be in that race. So you want to leave yourself with more options. So if it's a 6 furlong horse, I may check 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, 7 furlong, and then click that. That way it shows me all of the options. Okay? So as you can see now, I have 7 furlong, 6 furlong, 5 furlong. So there's more options for me to enter this horse. So it's highly recommended that you do not limit yourself to 1 or 2 distances unless you have a specialist. A specialist horse would be more like a 4 furlong only horse, or a 4 or 5 furlong horse only. Okay? That's the only time that you would want to use 1 or 2 of these check boxes. Okay? And also, if you have a distance horse, if the horse likes to go a mile and a half, you may click off, a mile and an eighth, a mile and a quarter, a mile and 3/8, and a mile and a half. Leave yourself with as many options as possible. Now, onto surface. Again, you can, horses have preferences. It doesn't, this horse here has a dirt preference. You can see it here, but it doesn't mean it can't run on turf. And so, you can choose, if you want to only see dirt races or turf races. So in this case, we're going to choose turf races, and we are going to then save it. And you can see now that only races that pop up are the turf races. So again, that's just a personal choice. We'll go ahead and uncheck that. The last one is the race types. Now, I I don't, to be completely honest with you, I don't necessarily like the sorting, the sorting that happens when you're checking off with the races, because again, you are definitely limiting yourself to a certain type of race when you go ahead and check these boxes off. So you want to be very careful. My recommendation is that if you are going to go ahead and use, like I said, I would leave the tracks open. You can select the distance if you want, okay? and do whatever you want to do with the surfaces. But for the races, I think that it's better off to basically leave all of these unchecked. That way you're not missing any races or any conflicts in coding and programming or whatever it may be. If this is unchecked, you are definitely going to see every race that's available based on these distances, okay? But again, you can do what you want. But I definitely, again, I wouldn't just limit yourself to one or two or something like that. You want to give your horse more options. So either leave it wide open, or if you like claiming horses, maybe you only do allowance races, claiming above 20, claiming below 20, and maybe race series, and then you can save it, and it'll only show those types of races. Okay. So you can see all these maiden claimants pop up because this horse is a maiden. So it has to run its first race as a maiden. If it wasn't a maiden horse, then you would see many more options. But I think you get the point with these racing race sorts over here. Be very, very careful. Try to give yourself as many options as possible. Either leave it completely blank or dial into 3 or 4 of these. Okay. Um, so and always once you start checking these off, it's only going to look for the checks. So if you only do this, or if you only do allowance and open allowance, you're not going to see the race series races, starter allowances, or stakes races. So you want to be very careful. I stress it, very careful with using this side. I kind of would like to see this wide open. Recommendation is to leave this wide open and then focus in on your distances here. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. These are just my recommendations for how I would set up a horse for its races. And again, you want to see all your tracks. You can kind of dial the races down into distance if you want, but don't shortchange yourself. Make sure you give enough distances. It's never one or two. Surface is a preference, and your race sorting you want to be careful with, because if you only check off a couple things, you could be missing out on some very nice races for the horse. So just remember, as you're using this, you're limiting your options as far as racing. Eventually you get the hang of it and you'll know exactly what you want to do. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully the video was helpful, and we'll see you on the next segment. Take care.